I'm picturing like 300, or like Lord of the Rings or something, where like the whole like massive army is behind the hill and you hear them coming and you know it's about to go down, but it's that air of suspense before it happens. Different space, same face. I know you wanted to see it. And if you didn't, keep your comments to yourself. I'm trying to have a good day. Anyway, we're going to talk about one of my latest tunes. Tune's called Unswung Hero. Nice, deep, minimalish, kind of stepper, kind of, that kind of thing. We'll get into the inspiration and then the production side of it. So a quick little backstory. I started this last year, 2023, basically after getting back from hospitality on the beach. Super good time as usual. But what I always take from festivals and stuff like that is all the new tunes I'm hearing and all these ideas of like what I can do for my own music. Basically, this tune was really inspired by Anil's Flow Chamber. If you don't know that tune, you should get to know it. I heard it in LSB set. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I was like, something about this makes me want to do, like, try and figure out and do the same thing, So if you listen to it now, it doesn't really sound like Flow Chamber too much, but it is really inspired by that and other tunes of Anil's, plus like a little bit of Skeptical and like the stuff I was trying to do with Class Dismissed and things like that. Just minimal bass and riff driven, minimal to a point if you want to be a stickler about it. It's not like QZB or something like that. It's just like, for what I do, it's pretty minimal. It's pretty bass driven. If you know me, I've always kind of confessed to having a problem of like being able to make bass driven drum and bass instead of like melodic driven stuff. So that's what this was. And I feel like I accomplished it. Just remember, this is more an overview of how things are put together. I'm not going to completely deep dive into every specific thing, but I will try and highlight certain things that I feel are significant and, quick little lessons or gems for thought or something. If you want to know something more specific, always leave them in the comments. I'm happy to make more videos and dive into the really nitty gritty stuff. But for now, we're just starting off with the global overview. And instead of yapping about it some more, let's go into how it was made. I don't know what this is, but transition. All right, so here's the project. It's pretty simple, but there's a lot of things to make the simple idea come off as, full and complex and, just rich, sonically rich. That's always what I want with my tunes, is no matter like how much is going on, there still feels like you feel depth, you feel encompassed in a space, or like, things like that I'm doing terrible trying to explain. However long the song lasts, you feel like you're in that headspace or in that scene or in that whatever you picture. I picture movie scenes. You could picture something else. So, overview for those who are new here. Drums at top, basically blue, and any other kind of color is usually like a variation of a certain loop. Same thing goes for bass, green. All these different colors means like the riff changed a little bit, so that gives me a visual cue about what's different. Usually it's fill or certain notes here and there. Red and the purples, like melodic, atmospheric, pads and all that. And down here, this mishmash of things are just effects, your whooshes, your risers, your crashes, all that kind of stuff. Sound good? I'll give you a little clip, a little bit of something. YouTube is gonna, flag me. So yeah, make sure you go listen to the full tune if you're interested, but I'll give you a little bit. And that's all you get for now. Again, link in the description or like off to the side in the suggested videos to listen to the full track and the rest of the Unswung Hero EP, should you be so inclined. So let's talk about drums. They're pretty simple. Like, where does this drop at? So bar 48 is kind of the main drum groove. Sounds like this. Your normal kind of straightforward steppy groove. No swing, because it's all just on the beats and off beats, but nothing syncopated yet. There's a bit of a feeling coming later. You add more things like rides and whatnot to kind of emphasize it. But basically, I really wanted to keep it simple. Keep it kind of that, 808 drum machine kind of drum and bass. You know what I mean? Like like I said, Flow Chamber, some of Skeptical's tunes. Think Pot Shot by LSB, stuff like that. That's a lot of the kind of influence to this tune is, can I do that? You know what I mean? The kick is layered. I'm not going to dive into how, but it's basically like these 3 bits. Again, if you want to know like the specific like drum layering that went on, put it down in the comments. I will make a follow-up video, but for the sake of time and just getting through this, I'm not going to show you. Your usual bits. You can, if you see the name, like I took this kick from Slapbox Funk, took another kick from a sample pack, stuck it all together, processed it, and you get the USH kick, Unswung Hero kick, which is nothing, significant on their own, but it hits within the mix. The clap is the same way. It's a couple different layers, basically like all my own like clap layers. Green, gray, blue, mad intense. The other one. Yeah, simple enough. You don't really need much else. They're kind of the rhythmic, the rhythmic like backbone, and all the groove really comes from the bass line, which we'll talk about in a bit. Hi-hats, percussion, not much going on. You kind of hear the reverb send. Different hi-hats. So there's like a wide one. And then there's like this mono one that laid together. Doing different grooves. They're being sidechained to the kick, so you get the pumping feeling that adds a bit of groove, a bit of kind of fake velocity switching in a way. Different hi-hat in this section. It's the mono, like really crushed, compressed one. So then it switches. Like one is like airy feeling and one is just like down the middle, very direct and dry. Adds a little bit of interest. We have this open hi-hat / ride kind of thing. There you go. I already showed you that. What else is there? Yeah. Honestly, that's the drums. There's a couple little fills here, which is just like the same clap with some reverb automation. If we look at it, could have bounced that, but it doesn't really matter. And there's this first one, which is just the break, more or less. You can't even see it, but it's there, kind of fading in. That's a bounce version of this one, which is exactly what I just showed you with some come on, man. Some filtering and automation stuff. So if you look at it, it's, coming up in volume, fading, and filtering down. Yeah, pretty simple. Like the drums all together are just supposed to be, they have punch. They're the body. They're just hitting. They're being consistent because the interesting stuff is everything else. Drum processing, real quick, because we can get stuck in that like anything. There's a reverb to give it. Come on now. I'm having to like kind of redo like some stuff in projects because I have a different setup. I'm on a laptop primarily now instead of the monitor and all that. Fun part of moving. So a bit of reverb. My favorite. I basically have my own preset. The reverb's being automated at certain points, just to make it interesting. Like if I play you this part, something simple, adds a bit of room, supercharger for compression and some saturation, radiator, passive EQ, just for a little shape, dynamics, really compressing the sides, not really touching the mids, just to bring up the air in the room. Soothe to get rid of a bit of harshness. Medium, please. Pro Q, getting some nodes out of the kicks, because as I was compressing things, you know, artifacts show up. K clip to clip, because that is a sharp clap. And then maximizer for some final limiting. And smexoscope just to see what I'm doing. That's usually my process for drums. I try to enhance them and get the sound more at the sample level or the track level, and just add finishing touches, glue, whatever you want to, you know, bring some cohesion to it all at the bus level. Yeah, simple enough. All right, let's move on to bass. So bass, there's a lot of audio here simply because I had to bounce a lot of things. Sounds like this though. Simple enough. So again, we're talking about simplicity and minimalism. If you think minimalism in the traditional sense, it's everything has a purpose. There's nothing extra. There's nothing unnecessary. It's direct. It's efficient. It's bare bones in an intentional and focused way. And that's kind of what's going on here. What's the only thing that's making it really feel alive is the variation in what's going on. And a lot of times it's the hardest thing to figure out is how to make variations on the theme. You know what I mean? So if we check this out, like the bass, just the sub, not doing much of anything. That's just like, it's my usual, if you've ever seen one of these, go look at a different one. It's just like triangle wave, filter down, bit of saturation. Even more saturation on top, another layer. That gives it this harmonic content. So you have clean sub with a bit that's bit pushed. And we have like, you know, it's basically parallel saturation in my own way. I even have a parallel saturation bus I'm not even using. Together it sounds like this. There's a lot of movement. You see, you know, the fundamental down there around 50, and you get these harmonics that make it speak on different systems. Let's see. Yeah, just the low end. Ew. It also filters in and out, like some noise comes in. And because there's all this movement in the low end, when you fit the drums into it, that's where sort of the feeling of drive, the feeling of a slight bit of swing, but it isn't obvious because there's not like shakers and stuff that directly make you feel that syncopation. It's subtler. That's what gets your head bobbing. Someone who's like the king at doing this is skeptical. Like, this bass line is inspired and sort of stolen. Like, it's not stolen, you know what I mean? But like, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was just listening to any of his tunes, trying to get like this rubbery harmonic like bass line. All right. And then, you know, the most important part is the acid line. That's what's doing all the work. It's made as a stem. I bounced it out as a stem. That's what I mean. Just because there's so much, like, here's the track here. There's loads of plugins. There's all this MIDI information. And specifically, I will dive into this in an additional video to really pull it apart, because there's a lot, basically automation-wise, going on to make it feel like it's alive, because that's the whole goal. Like, I'll play it from here, and I'll kind of highlight different things that are going on. Like, it's changing by note and everything. Like there's reverb being automated. The filter itself is being automated, like per note. Resonance of the filter is being automated per note. Reverb and delay. Yeah, every note is basically has a different touch, a different feeling, a slightly different setting. And it's pretty simple, but like, to be honest, it was a lot of just like moving notes painstakingly. And I'll kind of show you a bit if we look at the actual instrument track. Here are all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 automation lanes, which is, filter, the envelope sustain, envelope release, reverb being automated. A lot of this is copy and pasted, slight tweaks as the bars go on. Volume automation. There's some stereo automation because it comes from it goes from mono, to wide. We have filter stuff going on. Yeah, crazy. If we dive into the MIDI, every little velocity switch down here affects the filter because it's tied to it within the synth. It's silent. It's always silent. Higher velocities, sometimes the filter is a bit more open. And also it changes the amount of resonance for the filter, which gives you a different, the screaming versus the tame quality. And that through a bunch of compressors and, distortion is what gets you this screaming, alive kind of quality. Again, I'll dive into that in a separate video because I could spend a long time talking about it. But anyway, altogether, bass sounds like. Yeah, it just works together. And then the second end, or the second drop, is basically relying on that, the bass line, taking the acid part out. Just doing that, and a little bit of fills. If you recognize where that sound comes from, it's thinking of you. Yeah, then it comes back in. There's this buzzy kind of thing. Inspired by some bungle kind of tracks. There's this, a little chiptune layer in there. It's very subtle, but it just adds another bit of character, layer of character. See if I hear it. Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, some digital stuff. Yeah, so this is kind of helping. This is kind of, give you an idea of what's going on, how I kind of put together. I'm stalling because I'm actually looking for, I think I have the sketch to the idea that I tried to make this into first. Or I tried it and it didn't work. Yeah, here it is. The actual first version, idea I tried to get across. August 20th. What does it sound like? The same. Without all the atmosphere. There's a sample that's not even in the tune anymore. I tried a solid bass line. I think it could still work like this. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like I like it. And part of me is why didn't I stick with that idea? But I remember really wanting to blend the riff and the very rhythmic bass line together. And that took a load of work. But if I keep it a solid note, then that's a different feeling. And I think, to be honest, that'd be an easy change to make. So maybe a VIP or something is necessary for the future. I've had a couple ideas. I just got other stuff to work on. Anyway, let's get back to the project. All right. So we've talked about drums. We talked about bass. Let's get into the melodic stuff. I won't spend too much time because there's not a lot of it. All of it is basically kind of, it's either atmosphere, like the drones and the airiness, or it's little compliments to the riffs. So if we look at this, we have like this pizzicato string part, basically doing the riff, you know? Yeah, kind of accents it. This is that, but like a reverb. Like, you know, it's just like, it's your obvious like reverse reverb that you like do on vocals or something. If we listen to it with the bass line or with the riff, you see how it like interplays together. Yeah, it just adds a bit of like attitude. Like it, like before you kind of had this, and now you have like this ominous like string character. If you're feeling like, you know, a thriller or like a horror movie or something, and like the strings come in, it's not like the creepy like it's not those. It's just like they're poignant enough to where you're like, oh, a different character, a different something. Like, you know, it's progressing, and your usual like, you know, swells or something. Yeah, it's all to push the idea forward. Everything else is serving the main idea that is the bass line and kind of the mid bass acid line. That's it. There's nothing else melodic going on. This is atmosphere, loop, which is just, it's the same loop, but like, you know, cut up to make a riff. Yeah, that's not what I want. So it's kind of, and then this one is, so if it hits at different times, you get, and then, you know, easiest thing to do is pitch it up. And that's all it does. You know, it doesn't do anything else. There's no processing that's really cool. Like if I take off all the plugins, it kind of sounds like a mess. Like that's what it sounded like. I really want to like, you know, make it small, make it thin. Because when I add like the other atmospheric bits, like I'll show you, like I have just like this kind of ambience thing going on, downloaded from the internet. Yeah, there's loads of just like, you know, ambience kind of videos on YouTube. That's like cityscapes and stuff like that. And that's all I take it from. Together you get, again, setting the scene. There's no real narrative or story, but it's like, you know, it makes you feel like you're somewhere in a way. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, we go to these pads where they're just drones. Yeah, like eerie kind of sounds. Nothing to write home about. The top one is one way. The next one is that same sound reverse. And then there's like this eerie kind of like choiry pad from like default contact instrument. Just playing one note. So again, when we're talking about minimalism, sort of, and like serving the main idea, remember the main idea is the bass line. So if you listen to this pad, it has the same rhythmic quality to it as just a volume LFO that's like going up and down in the same way. But when you play both of them together, they gel and sort of support each other to really bring out, you know, a different character, a different attitude that maybe wasn't there in the individual track, you know? Like I was talking about the strings accenting, you know, different parts of the melody that's coming from the acid line. If you can kind of pinpoint little notes here and there, it can add drive, it can add forward momentum. It's the same thing as drive, Duncan, come on. It can add a bit of interest, but it isn't wildly doing anything different. It's a splash of color that's only there momentarily that perks your ear up and makes what the same thing you've been hearing sound just slightly different so it doesn't get boring. and you sort of look forward to what's coming next. So if I flip back, and actually while I'm thinking about it, the second drop is everything I'm talking about. Is I'll play it and then I'll break it apart, okay? So again, everything is supporting it, and this is why this part is kind of my favorite of the tune. Like, it strips away the acid part, and it's just weight and atmosphere. So it starts, the main bit is just the sub, that rhythm, right? We get a little accent with this. Same rhythm, different color, adds interest. Add in that pad, and now you get even more. There's a bit of intensity. It has a vocal quality to it, and your ears perk up when you hear the human voice, but it's creepy, so it draws you in even more. You know what I mean? And if we keep going, the pizzicato part comes back in, but the acid part's not there, so it's even a bit. It's different. And it's all playing into that character of just deep, like, cavernous, weighty room. You know what I mean? And then we start introducing other parts. And then we're back to normal. So every little thing is doing the same thing in a different way, and that's what makes it interesting. Even if you're like, subjectively you're not interested in, objectively it makes the idea more interesting. So, yeah. And tie that together with everything else, and you get this big feeling of just, I don't really know how to describe it. It's just when you hear it on a big system and there's just bass, but there's all this atmosphere around it, you get this huge sense of depth because there's a lot of high frequencies and very strong low frequencies. But nothing's really direct because there's not the high frequencies. They're like and in your face. They're subdued. They're background. It's like a calm before the storm in a way. It's like, you watch an action movie or like, I don't know, I'm picturing like 300 or like Lord of the Rings or something where like the whole like massive army is behind the hill and you hear them coming and it's about to go down. But it's that air of suspense before it happens. It's Sicario. It's that like, getting ready before the anyway, that's how I think of it. Yeah, back to it. The rest is just like, again, atmosphere. You'll hear it if you have headphones. There's like splashes and whatnot. I don't need to talk about this kind of stuff. I honestly didn't spend that much time on it because if you look at it, a lot of the stems just come from other tunes. All that added to the pads, big sense of openness, street sounds, adds depth, adds character, and that's this tune. Like it's over with. So yeah, that's how Unswung Hero was made. And a couple of things about, why I did what I did. I really enjoy listening to it. I've had a bit of space from it. So now I can like hear it for what it is instead of all these little blocks that I like, got migraines over. But yeah, again, if you want to know some more specific things about it, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to make follow-up videos, yeah, if we can get as in depth or as broad as you'd like. There will be another video going over just like all the automation from the acid line. If you want to, know how the drums are layered and stuff, let me know. Again, thanks to everybody supporting on Patreon who saw this first. Thanks for everyone else on YouTube who just, like hanging out, learning a couple things here and there. And I hope you find some value in this and they help you with your productions. And if you don't produce at all and you just kind of like watching someone make stuff, hope that's fun too. But yeah, see you in the next video. And I don't know what else I should say. Anyway, love you. Later.